The notification appears at 6:47 inches the morning, before my alarm goes off, before my first cup of coffee, before I have any armor against what it contains. I'm lying in bed, phone tilted toward my face in the gray early light, scrolling through the usual overnight noise, a sale email from a store I forgot I subscribed to, a group chat message from college friends I haven't seen in 2 years, when the alert from my credit monitoring app stops me cold. New hard inquiry detected. Lender Cornerstone Business Capital. Amount associated $94,800. I sit up so fast the room tilts. I have not applied for any loan. I have not spoken to any lender. I have not given anyone permission to run my credit for anything, not a car, not an apartment, not a credit card. I am a 31-year-old financial analyst who checks her credit score the way other people check the weather, out of habit, out of a need to feel in control of at least this one measurable thing in an unpredictable world. My hands are steady when I open the full report. That steadiness surprises me. Even now, I find the inquiry dated 4 days ago. 4 days ago, I was at my desk in the Hartwell and Crane office on the 14th floor, reviewing Q3 projections for a client who couldn't tell the difference between gross margin and net. I was not applying for a business loan. I was not anywhere near Cornerstone Business Capital. But someone was. Someone who had my social security number, my date of birth, my home address, and apparently a passable copy of my signature. I already know who. My brother has been talking about opening a restaurant for 3 years. Not the quiet, background kind of talking where someone mentions a dream once and lets it float away. The loud, centerpiece kind, where every family dinner for 36 months has circled back to it. My brother's concept, my brother's vision, my brother's passion. He dropped out of culinary school after 1 semester, worked the line at 2 different restaurants before quitting both, and spent the better part of last year watching YouTube videos about restaurant branding while my mother nodded along like he was outlining a merger. I open my laptop and pull up Cornerstone Business Capital's website. Their business loan products page loads in seconds. SBA-backed loans for new food service ventures. It reads, minimum credit score 680, personal guarantor required. My brother's credit score is somewhere around 610. I know this because he asked to borrow money from me 18 months ago to pay down a collection account, and I made him show me his report before I said yes. I gave him $1,400 that he has never mentioned repaying. My credit score is 768. I close the laptop and sit with that for a moment. The apartment is very quiet. Outside, a garbage truck groans down the street. The refrigerator hums. My upstairs neighbor walks across his floor in the heavy-footed way he always does, like the ground needs to know he's there. I do not call my brother. I do not call my parents. I learned something in my years of doing financial analysis. Never confront with a question when you can wait for a fact. Questions can be denied, deflected, explained away with a story smooth enough to make you doubt your own instincts. Facts cannot. I open a new document and title it simply, Record. Then I start looking. The loan application is not hard to find. Cornerstone's website has a status portal for active applications, and my social security number pulls it up immediately. There is my name at the top of the page. Maya Reeves, co-guarantor. The primary borrower is listed as Daniel Reeves, my brother. The business name is Ember and Salt. There is a logo, a little flame curling around a fork that someone has clearly spent time designing. The proposed location is a commercial space on Whitmore Avenue, 3 miles from my parents' house and 11 miles from my apartment. The loan amount requested is $94,800. The application was submitted 4 days ago. It lists my annual income, accurate to within a few $100s. It lists my home address. And at the bottom, in a field asking for co-guarantor authorization, there is my signature. I screenshot everything, then I screenshot it again. I email the screenshots to myself from a personal account I use for nothing else, an account my family does not know exists. I print the pages on my home printer and slide them into a folder I keep at the back of my filing cabinet, behind the tax returns. Then I make my coffee, take a shower, and go to work. Because the most important thing I can do right now is not react. The most important thing is to see exactly how deep this goes before I show a single card. It goes deeper than I expected. I call Cornerstone Business Capital from my car during my lunch break that same day, parked in the lot behind the office with my windows up and the heat running against the November cold. I identify myself and explain that I am reviewing the status of a loan application associated with my social security number. The loan officer is pleasant, almost enthusiastic. She confirms the application, confirms the co-guarantor status, and tells me the application is currently under review, expected decision within 5 to 7 business days. She mentions that everything looks very strong on the guarantor side. I ask whether the co-guarantor was present when the application was submitted. There is a brief pause. The co-guarantor authorization was submitted electronically, she says, along with supporting documents. I ask what supporting documents were submitted in my name. My pay stubs, she tells me, going back 6 months, my last 2 years of tax returns, a letter of employment on Hartwell and Crane letterhead. I sit with the phone pressed against my ear and breathe very carefully. I have never given my brother my pay stubs. I have never given my brother my tax returns, which are filed electronically and stored in an app on my phone. I have never given my brother anything on company letterhead, and I am fairly certain he has never been inside the Hartwell and Crane office. But my parents have seen my pay stubs. My mother asked me to bring one to a family dinner last spring because she wanted to help me understand my benefits package, she said, and I was stupid enough to print one out and bring it to her. She kept it. She said she needed to look something up later. My father has a file cabinet in his home office. He has always been the kind of man who keeps records of his children's lives, whether they want him to or not. Report cards from 1998, birthday cards going back 15 years, the essay I wrote to get into the honors program in 7th grade. He also, now that I think about it, helped me file my taxes 2 years ago when my accountant had a family emergency and I needed a hand. I sat at his kitchen table and logged into my tax software, and he sat across from me, helpful and attentive, while I navigated through the forms. He was watching the screen. He has a very good memory. I thank the loan officer and end the call. Then I sit in the cold car and open a new spreadsheet. I title it, What They've Taken. I start with the $1,400 for my brother's collection account. I moved to the $800 I wired to my parents 3 years ago when their furnace broke, the kind of loan that everyone understood was a gift the moment it was made. I find the $2,200 I spent flying home for my grandmother's funeral and covering the catering when my parents said they were short that month. I find the $600 I gave my brother for his culinary school application fee, before he dropped out. I find the $3,500 my mother borrowed to fix her car when I was 26 and had just started my first real job and felt, for the first and only time, flush enough to help. None of it has ever been repaid. None of it has ever been mentioned again, except by me, quietly, and only twice, before I understood that mentioning it made me the problem. By the time I closed the spreadsheet that night, the total is $14,860. That is what I can document. I know the actual number is higher. The call from my mother comes the next morning while I am on the train to work. She calls at 8:15, which is early for her, which means someone has coached her on the timing, trying to catch me before I'm settled and defended. I let it ring. I watch her name on the screen until it stops. 20 minutes later, a voicemail notification arrives. I listen to it through my earbuds with my eyes on the window and the city scrolling past. Maya, honey, she says, her voice doing the particular warm, worried combination she has always deployed when she needs something from me. Your brother has some exciting news he wants to share with the family this weekend. We thought maybe you could come to Sunday dinner. It's been a while. We miss you. Also, she pauses, and I can hear her decide to be casual. I think Daniel may have reached out to you about a little business thing. He's worked so hard on this, Maya. I hope you'll keep an open mind. A little business thing. I put my phone away and stare at the window. That evening, I call my friend Priya, who is the only person I trust with this. She is also, not coincidentally, a paralegal, which is why she is the first person I think of. I sit on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet. I don't know why I sit on the floor, but I always end up there when things are serious. Like my body needs to be close to something solid, and I tell her everything. She is quiet for a moment when I finish. Then she says, Maya, what they did is fraud. Using your identifying information to apply for a loan without your knowledge or consent is identity theft. The forged signature is forgery. These are not family drama words. These are criminal code words. I know, I say, but I want to be sure before I do anything. I want to have everything. That's smart, she says. Don't confront them yet. Let me look into a few things. And Maya, she pauses, go to your bank tomorrow and put a fraud alert on your credit. Not a freeze yet, that will tip them off if they check. Just an alert. And make sure you have access to every account from a device they've never touched. I do all of this before 9 the next morning. Sunday dinner is a performance I have seen so many times I could direct it from the wings. My mother makes something elaborate. This time it is a roast with 2 sides and a pie, which is always a sign that the occasion requires managing. My father pours wine before anyone sits down, which is his way of softening the room. My brother arrives 15 minutes late wearing a new jacket, which means he feels good about how things are going. I sit at the table with a smile I have been practicing since Thursday. I have decided to say nothing yet. I want to see who else knows. I want to see how this is being sold. It takes 11 minutes. Your brother has some news, my father says, setting down his fork with the particular gravity he gives to announcements. My brother leans forward. He is 28 and has our father's broad hands and our mother's talent for believing completely and in the moment. Whatever version of things is most convenient. He has always been the one who got extra time, extra grace, extra space to find himself, while I was the one who found herself at 19 out of sheer necessity. So I've been working on this concept, he says. Restaurant. Farm to table, focused on the mid-price point, Whitmore Avenue corridor. There's real foot traffic there. And I've got the financing lined up. He looks at me. I'm actually using your name as co-guarantor, Maya. Just on paper, you won't have to do anything. It's basically just your credit, I'm handling everything else. Just like that, the fork goes down, the announcement is made, and my brother watches me with the expectant look of someone who has been told this will go fine. I set my own fork down very carefully. I look at him and then at my parents. My mother is watching her plate. My father is watching me with the expression he uses when he needs me to absorb something without reacting to it. When did you decide this? I ask. My voice is even. We've been planning it for a while, my brother says. The application went in last week. We expect approval in a few days. It's really happening, Maya. You submitted the application already? It had to go in before the space got taken. Without asking me, I tried calling you a few times. My brother's voice shifts slightly, the first creak of defensiveness appearing. You're hard to reach. He has not called me. I have my call logs. I screenshot them the day after I saw the credit alert. My mother speaks then, soft and certain. Maya, your brother has worked so hard on this. You've always been the responsible one, the stable one. This is just one small way to use what you've built to help your family. I look at her. I say nothing. Your father and I have always supported your career, she continues. We've always been proud of you. This is just family supporting family. I reach for my wine glass. I take one sip. I look around the table at the 3 of them, and I feel something settle in my chest. Not anger, exactly, but something cooler and more durable than anger. Clarity. I'll think about it, I say. My father nods, satisfied. My brother grins. My mother squeezes my hand. I help clear the dishes. I stay another 40 minutes. I drive home and call Priya from the parking lot of my apartment complex and tell her exactly what was said, word for word. She says, they submitted it already knowing you hadn't consented. They used documents they obtained without your permission. The fact that they announced it after the fact, like it was a favor, is not an accident. That's how people like this operate. They create the situation and then present it as something you should simply absorb. I know, I say again. What do you want to do? I think about that for a moment. I think about the $14,860 spreadsheet. I think about the pay stub my mother asked me to print. I think about my father watching my tax software screen with his very good memory. I think about my brother's new jacket and his expectant face. I want to not be the guarantor on this loan, I say. I want my credit untouched, and I want to make sure this never happens again. Then here's what we do, Priya says. The next morning I am at my bank when it opens. I request a meeting with a fraud specialist. I sit in a small office with a woman named Diane who has the calm, unhurried manner of someone who has seen everything, and I show her the screenshots, the credit report, the loan application details. She reviews them without expression. She types for a while. I need to be honest with you, I tell her. The people who did this are my family. I am not calling the police today. I want to document this properly first. Diane nods slowly. She explains that I can formally dispute the inquiry as unauthorized, which will be noted on my credit file and transmitted to the lender. She explains that I can also submit a written statement that my signature was obtained without consent. She explains that if the loan is approved and I formally dispute my status as co-guarantor before disbursement, the lender will be required to investigate before releasing funds. She is precise and matter-of-fact and does not ask me how I feel about any of it, which I appreciate enormously. I walk out of the bank 45 minutes later with a dispute form filed, a fraud alert upgraded to a full freeze, and a reference number for my records. I photograph the paperwork in my car and email it to myself. I feel like I have just done something irreversible. I have. That is exactly the point. For the next 10 days I do not call my family and they do not call me, which tells me they think things are proceeding normally. My brother sends one text, "Hey, should hear back on the loan soon, so pumped." I read it and put my phone down. I am not idle. I spend those 10 days talking to Priya, talking to a tenants' rights attorney she knows, who handles a broader practice, and making 2 lists. The first list is everything I need to protect. My accounts, my credit, my professional identity, any document in my parents' house that has my information on it. The second list is everything I want to document before I close this chapter. Every text, every voicemail, every email, every financial transfer. I also start looking at apartments in Morristown. It is 90 minutes from my family's house and 40 minutes from my office if I take the express. A colleague mentioned once that she commutes from there and it is manageable. There is a 1-bedroom on Ellison Street with exposed brick and a clawfoot tub and rent that is $300 less per month than what I pay now. I schedule a viewing for a Thursday afternoon and tell no one. The application is denied. I find out through the same credit alert app that first notified me. The hard inquiry is now closed. The associated application marked declined. The freeze on my credit file had flagged the application for additional verification that the lender was not able to obtain. My phone rings 4 minutes later. My brother's name. I let it ring. The voicemail he leaves is 9 seconds long. "Maya, I need you to call me back. It's important." My mother calls 20 minutes after that. Her voicemail is longer and has the particular tone of someone who has just been told a plan has not worked. "Honey, there seems to have been some kind of issue with the financing, a hold on your credit or something. Your brother is really upset. Can you please call us? This is a very important moment for him." My father calls that evening. His voicemail is 2 sentences. "Maya, call home. We need to sort this out together." I save all 3 voicemails to a cloud folder. I do not call back. 2 days later, I am at my kitchen table when there is a knock at my door that I am not expecting. I look through the peephole and see my mother and my brother standing in the hallway. My mother is holding a container of something food, probably the offering she brings when she needs something, and my brother has his hands in his jacket pockets and is looking at the floor. I open the door. My mother smiles immediately, the warm, worried smile, and steps forward. "I've been so worried about you," she says. "I made your favorite." She holds out the container. "Can we come in?" I step back and let them in because I want to hear this. I want them to say it out loud, in my apartment, where my phone is on the counter recording. We sit at my kitchen table, the 3 of us, with the container of food between us, like a centerpiece no one asked for. My mother begins, which is how it always goes. She sets the table, and my brother sits at it. "Maya, the loan didn't go through because of something on your credit. A hold." I nod. "Is there something going on with your finances?" My brother leans forward. "Because if there's a problem, we can work around it, we can." I place the hold, I say. Silence. There was an unauthorized inquiry on my credit file. I reported it to my bank. They placed a fraud alert, and I upgraded it to a full freeze. My mother's expression shifts. Just slightly. Something moves behind her eyes. A rapid calculation I have seen before. At the Sunday dinner table when my father was figuring out how to present the request. At Christmas when my brother needed the $1,400 and they were working out who was going to ask me. "We thought," she begins, "that it would be easier this way. That you would," she pauses, "that you'd want to help your brother, once you saw how serious he was. You submitted a loan application in my name without telling me," I say. "You used my pay stubs and my tax returns and a forged version of my signature." "It wasn't forged," my brother says quickly. "It was just I had the documents and the form needed a signature, so You signed my name on a legal document," I say, "on a loan application for $94,000. My mother reaches across the table and touches my hand. "I know it sounds like a lot," she says, "but this is your brother, Maya. This is family. You have a stable job. You have good credit. Your brother is trying to build something real. All we're asking is for you to use what you already have to help someone who needs it." "And if the restaurant fails?" I ask. My brother's jaw tightens. "If it fails," I say, "I am legally responsible for $94,000. My credit is destroyed. My ability to buy a home, to get a car loan, to rent an apartment, is gone. Because my name is on a document I never agreed to sign. You don't have faith in me, my brother says. This is not about faith. This is about $94,000 and a crime. My mother makes a small, wounded sound she has always kept ready and presses her hand to her mouth. I have never done that before. Said the word crime at this table, at any table, with any of them. Maya, my mother says softly. How can you use that word with your own family? I look at her. I look at my brother. I look at the container of food on my table. I'm going to need you both to leave, I say. After they go, I sit on my kitchen floor, back against the cabinet, and I call Priya and I cry, which I have not done once since the credit alert appeared on my phone. Not from grief exactly, and not from anger. From something more like the specific exhaustion of having loved people who required you to be smaller than you are, and finally deciding to stop. You okay? Priya asks. I will be, I say, and I mean it. I sign the Morristown lease 4 days later, from my laptop, in the Hartwell and Crane break room during my lunch hour. The move-in date is December 3rd. I arrange for movers on a Saturday, the same Saturday. I know my family will be at my cousin's graduation party 3 hours away, a conflict my mother mentioned 2 weeks ago when she was still in the phase of telling me things. I tell Priya the plan. She helps me draft a formal letter to Cornerstone Business Capital explaining that my identity documents were used without my authorization in the loan application, and that I am prepared to submit a formal identity theft report to the FTC and local law enforcement if the application is reopened or my information is used again in any capacity. We send the letter certified mail with return receipt. We keep a copy. I tell my manager, discreetly, that I am going through a difficult family situation and may need to handle some personal matters during the coming weeks. She is a practical woman who has worked in finance for 20 years and says only, "Let me know if you need anything, and don't let it affect your deliverables." This is the right response. I appreciate it. The Saturday of the move is cold and clear, the kind of December day where the sky is very blue and the air has no mercy. I wake up at 6 in a nearly empty apartment I've been living with essentials for 2 weeks, moving boxes gradually to Priya's storage unit, and I drink my coffee standing at the window, watching the street below. At 9:15, my mother sends a text. Just got to the venue. Cousins everywhere. Wish you were here. And a small heart emoji. At 9:30, the moving truck pulls up. I open my front door and there are 2 men in matching gray uniforms who are professional and efficient and entirely indifferent to the significance of what they are helping me do. I hand them the list. We start with the boxes. While they work, I go through the apartment one last time. I am not a person who has filled a home with things, which is either a character trait or a consequence of always knowing, somewhere quiet and deep, that I might need to leave. The furniture is minimal and mostly mine, a good desk I saved for, a bed I bought when I got my first real job, a bookshelf I assembled myself on a Sunday afternoon with a podcast on and a glass of wine. These things fit into the truck by 11. My phone buzzes. My brother, "Hey, how come you're not at the graduation thing?" I don't answer. 15 minutes later, my mother, "Maya, your aunt asked where you were. Everything okay?" Still don't answer. At 12:10, my phone rings. My mother's name. I let it go to voicemail. Then I submit the FTC identity theft report I have been holding in my drafts folder for 2 weeks. I file the same report with the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. I send copies of everything: the application screenshots, the dispute records, the bank paperwork, the certified letter to a single email addressed to my mother, my father, and my brother. The subject line is documentation. The body of the email is 3 sentences. I have filed formal identity theft reports regarding the unauthorized use of my personal information and forged signature on the Cornerstone Business Capital loan application. This documentation has been filed with the FTC, the state AG's Consumer Protection Office, and retained by legal counsel. I am not taking any further action at this time, but I will if necessary. I press send. I watch the notification disappear. I feel something release in my shoulders, like a cord being cut. The truck pulls out at 12:30. I do my final walkthrough alone. The apartment is empty and small and already someone else's, and I walk through it the way you walk through a place you know you'll never see again, slowly, noticing things you stopped noticing years ago. The crack in the bathroom tile. The window in the kitchen that sticks. The scuff on the baseboard where I dragged in the bookshelf. I leave my key on the counter and close the door behind me. My phone starts ringing as I walk to my car. My mother. I let it ring. My father. I let it ring. My brother, who almost never calls. I watch his name on the screen until it stops. By the time I reach Morristown, there are 14 missed calls and 11 text messages. I pull over in the parking lot of a grocery store 2 blocks from my new building and I read every one of them. They are not different from what I expected. How could you do this to us? Your brother is devastated. Do you understand what you've done? This is a federal thing, Maya. You're going to ruin his life. After everything. After everything. After everything. I screenshot the messages, add them to the folder, and drive the last 2 blocks. My new apartment is on the 3rd floor, with a window in the kitchen that faces east. In the morning, I will find out. The light comes in so early it wakes you up before your alarm, and the first time it happens, you will lie there half-conscious thinking something is wrong and then realize what it is and then realize there is nothing wrong at all. But I don't know that yet. Right now, I stand in an empty room with boxes around me and the smell of someone else's life still faint in the walls, and I feel not happy. Exactly. Not yet. But something that has the shape of what happiness grows from. Room. Quiet. My name on a lease I signed myself. For an address no one in my family knows. Priya arrives at 4 with dinner and a small pothos in a terracotta pot. Unkillable, she says, even for people who are terrible at plants, which I am. She helps me unpack the kitchen while we talk. Not about my family, just regular talking, the kind that fills a room without asking anything of you. This is good, she says at one point, looking around the kitchen. It is, I say. My father leaves a voicemail late that night, after the calls have stopped coming with the same frequency. His voice is different from my mother's flatter, more careful. Maya, I think we need to talk like adults. What happened has consequences for your brother. I hope you'll think about that. We raised you to be better than this. I play it twice. I save it to the folder. I do not feel guilty, which is new. I feel something more like the particular clarity of someone who has finally looked at a structure they've been living inside and understood what it was actually made of. 3 months pass. My commute is manageable and occasionally even pleasant, the train cutting through bare winter trees in the morning and the same trees filling in with green by March. I become a regular at a coffee shop 2 blocks from my building where the barista knows my order and doesn't make conversation before I've had half of it, which is exactly right. Work is good. I am focused and productive in a way I haven't been in years, because the low-frequency hum of family anxiety that I didn't even realize was constant is gone now, and without it I have a kind of mental real estate I didn't know I'd lost. My manager notices. In my February review, she uses the word exceptional twice and mentions a team lead opportunity opening in the spring. I go to therapy on Tuesday evenings, a small office above a dry cleaners run by a woman named Dr. Carver who specializes in family systems and has a way of saying things that makes you feel you've always known them and never found the words. In our 3rd session, she says, "The people who benefit most from your guilt are the people who taught you to feel it." I write that in my journal when I get home and read it several times. My brother's restaurant did not open. My cousin Elena, who is close with my mother and kind enough to tell me things without taking sides, fills me in over the phone one Sunday afternoon. Daniel looked at other financing, she says. A smaller loan, his own name only. But the space on Whitmore Avenue was taken by then. He's still looking at other locations. Your mom and dad are frustrated. She pauses. They're also not saying much about what happened, about why the first loan fell through. I nod on my end of the phone. Are you okay? Elena asks. I'm really good, actually, I say, and mean it fully. There is one more voicemail from my mother, left on a Thursday in February. She sounds tired, and tired in a way that is different from her performance of tired, more like the real thing underneath it. Maya, she says, I know you're angry. I know she stops. I hope someday you'll let us explain. We love you. We thought you would understand. I listened to it sitting on my new couch, in my new apartment, with the eastern light long gone and the pothos on the windowsill doing surprisingly well for something in my care. I listened to it all the way to the end, and then I sit with it for a while. I do not delete, but I do not call back, not yet, maybe not for a long time, maybe not until I know what I would say and whether saying it would serve any purpose besides closing a loop that may not need to be closed on a schedule other than my own. The thing no one tells you about protecting yourself from the people who raised you is that it does not feel like victory. It does not feel like defeat either. It feels like the quiet after a very long noise, when your ears are still adjusting and you're not sure yet what the silence sounds like, only that it is yours. I open my laptop on a Saturday morning with my coffee and the sun coming through the kitchen window, and I look at the document I titled Record back in November, the one I started before I had a plan or a Morristown apartment or a Tuesday therapist or a pothos plant on my windowsill. I read through it. All the details, the loan application, the spreadsheet, the voicemails, the certified letter, the FTC report. It is a complete record of something I never wanted to have to document. I rename the file. I call it Proof That I Knew My Own Name. Then I close it, open my work files, and begin my day. Here is the question I have been sitting with, the one I haven't found an answer to yet, and am no longer in a rush to resolve. When someone uses the word family as a reason you should absorb harm quietly, at what point does the word stop meaning what it was supposed to mean? I don't know, but I am starting to think that the answer is less important than the question itself, the fact of being allowed to ask it, in a room that is yours, with a window that faces east. If you have ever had to choose between peace and the people you came from, how did you know when the time had come?